something I had to put in my schedule when I was at USC. I used to just volunteer at a local homeless shelter every Sunday or Saturday morning, and I just, give them meals and things like that. And so I think just thinking outside of yourself, because again, when you're anxious or you're depressed or whatever, you get so consumed and you get stuck in a rut in your head. And when you think outside of yourself, like, oh, someone else's needs right now. And at least for 30 minutes, an hour, like you're not worried about yourself. You're not worried about all the things that are making you feel anxious or depressed or whatever. And so I found that to be very healing for me. And then now to be able to do that on a large scale and speak with NAMI and lobby Congress and all that stuff, it's giving back on, a bigger scale, but it still provides relief for me.
Yeah, I love that. And all the studies back that up and show that. Like, even when we're experiencing anxiety and stress, when we go and relieve the anxiety and stress of others or feel like we're working on that, it massively impacts how we feel.
Yeah.
So that's such a great example.
Not to just do things for myself, but it does, there is a reciprocal thing when you're, giving back. You're also, we said that earlier, you're also, getting something from it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're in some of those rooms, like when you're lobbying Congress or like standing up for a right, or do you ever feel like, are you ever like, what am I doing? Like, I can't believe I'm here. Like, from having experienced anxiety to now like being an activist. And that's an amazing journey in and of itself.
Yeah. When I lobbied Congress with NAMI, and I remember we were getting off the bus at DC to walk up the steps of the Capitol, I was like, every anxious moment, panic attack was worth it to be standing here, because I felt like, you have very few moments in your life where you feel like everything's come to this moment. And there were days where like the struggle was real. I was really having panic attacks. I really didn't want to go to school. I really didn't want to do these things. There was a time in which I couldn't leave my house. And it was just like, wow, to go through all of that, to overcome it all, and then to be standing here and championing for somebody else, like it just makes it feel like it wasn't for nothing,
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. I love that journey, because I think when you can see it, and wherever you are, if anyone who's listening or watching right now, wherever you are on that journey of you from school to the Capitol is full of tiny little steps.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it does not happen overnight.
Yeah, it's just these tiny little steps, these tiny shifts, these tiny changes, and then you get this big moment where you get to stand up for something you believe in, which is beautiful. One of the other habits that you wrote down, which I loved, was God, Spirit, Connect, Church on Sunday. And I was thinking, is that something that's been a part of your life since you were really young?
I was raised, my mom was a very new age growing up. And so at the time, like law of attraction and all that stuff was like very woo-woo. And I didn't really tell kids at school that that's really what we were doing at home. But now of course, everybody in LA does it, but which I love. But it was like very normal for me. We used to go to Agape. I don't know if you know. And so I grew up there, like going to their kids' room. And so I still watch it now, even though it's, virtual. But yeah, I think my meditation practice too is like a huge part of my mental health toolkit, and just sitting and getting quiet and connecting and feeling like there's something else, or there's meaning to all of this, for me is really relieving.
Yeah. And has that been a habit that you've continued even during the pandemic, I guess you're saying, virtually? Or
How
has that been sustained during this time? Because I feel like being present with people is such a beautiful way for that connection.
Yeah, it is. It's tough when you can't be in the room, but I do virtual. Like meditation classes with Unplug, and I just do virtual everything.
I love it. Yeah, that's amazing. It takes a bit of. I was actually saying that I set up with two of my close friends. We set up meditation communities together during the pandemic.
Oh, that's so cool.
Me, them, and then their friends, their family, every week on Zoom, we meditate together. I guide the meditations. And it's just been so beautiful and meaningful, because we've got all these amazing friendships that have come out of this Zoom. And I didn't even know half the people on there. I didn't know anyone on there actually beyond this person. And now a year and a half later, I literally feel like I've got all these new friends.
No, it's so weird how like you make these Zoom friendships, because we had to. Like this is nothing like what you were just saying, but I was in like a French course over this last year, and like these two girls on my French course, I just flew out to Boston to meet them in real life, because I was like, I feel like you're my real friends. And people were like, you've never met in person. I'm like, but you kind of have, after a year of Zooming with somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to get creative in that way.
Yeah.
And you have to realize that. I found that what was really fascinating is I found that if you do something meaningful in the center of a group of people, whether it's virtual or physical, you create an amazingly deep bond.
Yeah.
But if you do something meaningless, whether it's physical or virtual, you actually don't feel close to those people.
Right.
And so it's like the reason you're coming together is actually so much more important than even coming together.
Right.
And I saw that just transform so much of my life in the last 18 months, where relationships came from places I didn't expect them to, because I didn't realize that even if you did something virtually, but it was powerful and meaningful and purposeful, the quality of that relationship was far greater than if you just hung out on a Zoom.
Right.
And so, yeah, anyway, that was, I don't know if that's useful.
No, it was. No,
yeah,
I completely agree with you.
Yeah. When do you feel, we were talking about this earlier, and we've really talked about your mental well-being and your journey with that, but you're such a creative, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's like DJing, whether it's producing, writing, I want to know, when do you feel most creative? And what do you feel is your greatest superpower when it comes to creativity? And when you access it, you're like, oh, I felt that.
That's tough because I feel like my creativity manifests in so many different ways. Like, you know, I'm an actor and I'm a writer as well. And I consider myself a dancer. I'm not professional by any means, but I grew up dancing. That was like my first performative love. And so I feel like my most creative, honestly, when I'm alone, like I really get into this. And maybe it's that like tortured artist thing that you kind of have to do. But really when I'm alone and I sit and I get quiet, and in my meditations, that's where my podcast came from. I was sitting in meditation and I like opened my eyes and I'm like, I have to do a podcast. And you know what I mean? Like you kind of just hear things. And so I think for me, and I'm so lucky that my partner, my boyfriend, he understands that like for me to be creative, like I have to really sink in. And before I have auditions or before I go, you know, on set, like I have to kind of have the day before to really just, I think it's just really getting connected with yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's why I need that quiet alone space. And so I think eliminating distractions for me is a big thing.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm the same. Like before something big, whatever that may be, for me, it's the same. I need to be alone. It needs to be quiet. I need to be in my own thoughts.
Yeah.
I don't want any distractions. So I relate to that fully. And I find that it's important. What you just said there is a really big lesson. Like with the people that you love around you, it's important you explain that to them.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they just start to think like they're doing something wrong, or like they don't understand you, or they've made a mistake. And it's so important, like what you just explained, that, you know, my boyfriend understands that when this is happening, that this is what I need.
Yeah.
I think that's such a healthy way of communicating.
Yeah, I'm very lucky that my boyfriend is also a writer and director. It also needs like his own time. So it's like we're a great match.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, explaining to him like, hey, it's not you, but like if I have an audition, like the night before, like, you know, I need my time. I have to get into the character, and like I'll call you right when I'm out, you know?
Yeah. And I love that the name of the podcast is exactly the sentence you would say during meditation. Am I doing this right? Like, I mean, it's a question we ask for a lot of things, but because you said you got the idea while you were meditating, I was just like, yes, there are many times in meditation where the thought in my head is, am I doing this right?
Oh, yeah. And I always tell people when they are afraid to start meditation, I'm like, there is no right way to do it.
Yeah.
It's not. I used to think meditation was levitating in your living room and like, you know, rising from the ground. And I was like, no, if you could just get quiet for like 2 minutes, 1 minute, like, and then now I'm like, I sit for 30 minutes every day. But yeah, no, a lot of people think, yeah, am I doing this right? Is this how it's supposed to feel? Like, am I supposed to have like some profound, that my epiphany is not my normal meditations.
Yeah. Tell me about that meditation practice. You said you went from like 1 to 2 minutes to now 30 minutes a day. Like, what does that look like? What are you doing for that 30 minutes? What time of day it is, and how are you practicing that?
I wake up first thing in the morning, let my dog out, and then that's when I meditate. We get back inside. And I mean, it started with just sitting for 10 minutes and just learning how to follow my breath, which is great for anybody who's experiencing anxiety, because when you can, you know, when you can lower your breath, you lower your heart rate, and a lot of your anxiety symptoms go away. So that was like almost like being very practical anxiety relief that helped me. But then I started to really love the spiritual side of it, and then it grew, and now I have crystals and there's sage, and it's a whole thing. It's a production.
Yeah.
It takes a long time. My dog's sitting there like, really? We have to do all of this every time?
I love that. That's so important though, because that creates so much like a foundation in your day and a certainty, and like it creates an environment that you love walking into. And
yeah, and it's just like the best way for me to get in the right headspace to do things like this, to, you know, go out in the world. And I'm an introvert, so I have to like charge up before I go out, you know?
I can relate to that. Let's talk about that, because I reckon everyone who's listening to this going, you guys are not introverts. Like,
You're not an introvert.
I am.
No way.
Yeah, definitely. Like I have to like self-preserve so much to have energy. And if I go to an event, if it's my event, it's different. But if I'm going to an event, I will just try and find one person to have a deep, meaningful conversation with. I won't introduce myself to everyone, not because I'm anxious or scared by it, but I just really like deep connection more than I love, wide connection, I guess. And that idea of just being able to have like lots of small talk throughout the night just doesn't fulfill me in the same way. And I feel like I spent a lot of my life being an extrovert during my teens, but then I feel like I became more and more of an introvert because I realized the value of being alone, especially when it came to making big decisions, especially when it came to like sticking to my guns on an idea I had and no one agreed with me. And as I started to realize that the more time I spent with people, the more their voice became louder. And I was like, no, but I want to follow my heart. Like, so I feel like with all of that, like my favorite thing to do without a doubt on a weekend is sit with a bunch of books, make notes, read, listen, learn. Like I do that. If my wife's traveling or not with me, I would literally just do that, and I'll order in.
That's my favorite.
Like, that's my favorite thing to do. You too?
Yeah. Same, exactly. Like I feel like I'm an extroverted introvert where I can go out.
It's all coming out now. It's all coming out now.
Yeah, it can be on, but then I have to go home and I can't see people for like 3 days, and I have to like completely go inward. And so, it's just about charging and then like, going out and feeling purposeful when you are out, like, and having meaning when you're out, and not just, I too get drained with just like, hey, how are you doing? What's the weather? All of that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's why your podcast is great, because you're asking the question, am I doing this right? And I think that question is that question's like, we ask it to ourselves all the time. Like I'll be sitting as an interviewer going, am I doing this right? Am I asking the right questions? And I do it when I'm an interviewee. So if I'm being interviewed, I'm sitting there going, am I doing this right? And then it happens when I'm writing my book. It happens when it's a question that we ask again and again and again. What have you discovered by asking that question, by sitting and having these amazing discussions on the podcast? What have you learned about that question and understanding what is right?
It's very simple, is that no one knows what they're doing and no one thinks they're doing it right. And I think that's what's really bonded us with our listeners, because I think they were like, okay, finally someone else is like admitting that like we have no idea what we're doing, and we're supposed to pretend like we know how to do these things. Ours is like our podcast is a life how-to podcast. So we go through very confusing things in adulthood that you think you're supposed to know, but you don't really. Like, how do I file my taxes? What is a 401k? I don't know. All these things that you're supposed to know and you don't. And you're never taught in school. And it's like, okay, we're going to stop pretending that we have it all figured out. And we're going to admit, at least me and my co-host, my best friend Natalie, are going to admit we don't know anything, and we'll figure it out for you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, because even for me, when I moved to the US, I had to learn a whole new...
that's why I was like, I don't know if you even know what a 401k is.
I do now. But it was like when I moved to the US. So in the UK, I relied on my mom, because my mom was like a financial advisor.
That's what my mom is.
Really? No way.
My mom's an accountant.
Oh, yeah. And my dad's an accountant. So I was like, okay, they've got me covered. They'll figure it out. And then I moved here and I was like, oh. And then I was like trying to get help from them, but none of them could help me because everything's different over here.
Yeah.
And so, I've had to learn about every aspect of it, which... it is so complex if you haven't learned it at school. I wonder whether you're going to do a crypto episode.
We did a crypto episode.
Did? Amazing. Okay.
It's literally called A Preschooler's Guide to Crypto.
I love it.
And like when I tell you, we like are hand holding you, because it was something people have been talking about. They use big words, and me and my best friend are like, she's a art major. Like we don't know any of this. We're creative people. And so we were like, we'll look it up and we'll explain it to you. We also like drink a glass of wine every episode. So it's fun. And it's not like a boring TED talk. We want it to be like you're going to drinks with your girlfriends and you're like, hey, like what's crypto? And you're like, oh, it's this,
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. and that's awesome. And I think that's how we all want to learn.
Yeah.
Like we all learn more through conversation than we do through like whiteboards and whatever it may be. And that sort of approach. But What's been the most popular episode? I'm intrigued. I always ask that question to someone who has a podcast because I'm intrigued to hear about what people are like really like wanting to learn. What's been your most popular conversation that you've had?
We did an episode on morning routines, and we researched how billionaires start their day. And that one got a lot of hits. I think we don't only do like personal finance. We started that way, then we were like, wait, there's a lot of other things in adulthood like we need to figure out, which is like morning routines, nighttime routines, we just did an episode on going to therapy. But that one we got a lot of hits on, I think, because I don't know, people want to have successful mornings. Like we were saying, like me meditating in the morning, like starts my day off for success. So very interesting.
Yeah.
Oprah wakes up at 6:10 a.m. naturally, without an alarm clock, which I was like, I can never do that, Oprah.
I love that. Yeah, no, I've read those. There's such incredible ones because I found that, I think it was like, I might be getting this wrong, but I remember when I looked at that, it was like 63% of the most successful people in the world get like 7 to 8 hours of sleep.
They do.
They're actually getting their sleep, contrary to popular belief, which is that you have to sleep 4 hours if you want to be successful.
No, a lot of them do. A lot of them woke up later than I did. I think somebody, and I don't want to say it was Elon Musk, it was someone else like woke up at 10 or something. I was like, wow, like they're really getting a lot of sleep.
You're like, I should just wake up at 10. Like this, why am I waking up early for? No, I think these things are so important to study. And I was saying this to someone earlier today that, so a lot of people today, we struggle because we're like, oh, well, we don't want to be compared to this ideal, or like, why are we looking at what others are doing? But the truth is that you have two options when you're looking at success. You either look at success with envy or you look at success with study. But we both have to look at it. So some people are looking at everyone going, oh, I wish I had that, or, oh God, why are they trying to be perfect or whatever. Or we can look at it and say, well, what can I learn from that?
Yeah.
Like how do I apply that to my life? And I feel like studying healthy, wealthy, and wise individuals is a great way to live because it helps you figure out what parts of it you want to apply to your life.
Yeah. No, 100%. And like I said, like I'm not going to naturally wake up at 6 a.m. It's just, I'm going to need an alarm clock, but it's just, one, it's interesting. Yeah. And two, I mean, I think you can start to like find little things that you can apply here and there. And the rest of the episode goes into just like healthy morning habits. We only use like .govs, .org, so we don't just like pull from, a random article, but we find things that have, real science behind it.
Yeah. What's been a habit or a principle or a way someone lives or even a financial thing that surprised you? Where you're like, that's so cool. Like, I didn't know that. Is there anything that stood out like that? I'll share one while you're thinking. For me, it was, we had Russ on the podcast and I was obviously asking him questions about creativity and music. And he was saying that his favorite thing to do, and we'll both align with this, he was saying his favorite thing to do is get all of his friends out of the studio, not invite anyone over, go into the basement or go into the studio and make weird sounds that he would only make if he was on his own.
That is
And so he literally like yells into the microphone, he makes a weird sound, he screams and he goes, if I had my friends in there, I would feel so judged that I wouldn't do that. So he goes, for me, the best creativity is being alone and just making weird noises. And then I'll discover something like, oh, I want to find an instrument like that.
No, that's really, really interesting. No, I mean, I haven't had anything like that on our podcast yet. I'm trying to think. I mean, like, this was not as cool at all, so I don't want to say it.
Go on.
No, we were really surprised. We were looking up also, like, in this morning routines episode, like, what a lot of people eat in the morning. Okay. And you've been like sold that you need to have like bacon and eggs. Most people have oatmeal, and I was like, I don't like oatmeal, but maybe I should try eating oatmeal because most billionaires eat oatmeal.
Do you know why that makes me very happy? I've been eating oatmeal my whole life for breakfast.
Really?
Yeah. I recently switched to chia pudding because I found out that I have a slight allergy to oats.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So I switched to chia pudding, which is actually much nicer. So
okay. Well, you're already on your way. I mean, you're already incredible.
Chia pudding, blueberries, strawberries.
That's your morning.
Amazing. It's such a great
breakfast. I need to be on that.
Yeah. And like you said, it's all personal. Like, like I did a micronutrient test recently, which is what helped me realize that I have a slight allergy to oats. But also like oats was leaving me feeling bloated or uncomfortable, whatever it may be. Whereas chia seed pudding has been amazing for me. So
Yeah.
I guess we're going to redefine what billionaires eat in the morning.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be oatmeal. It can be.
No, it doesn't have to be. And like everyone makes, and that's the whole thing with like my toolkit and like that's like, it's a choose your own adventure thing. But I think when you have the knowledge of what to do, that empowers you to make the most, conscious decision for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you most excited about what you're creating right now? Like what's a role that you're playing that you've just deeply dived into and you're just feeling it? Or even if there's something coming up that you're just like, this is challenging me in a way that I know I'm growing.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure by the time this comes out, this will be news. I just sold my first TV show.
Congratulations. That's huge.
Yeah, two weeks ago. And so that has been such a journey for me. I've been working on the show for like 5+ years. I wrote it. I created it.
Are you in it too?
I'm in it as well. And so I just sold it. And so I think for me, this is like this new challenge for me. I've EP'd a show before, the one on Netflix, Dad Stop Embarrassing Me, but I've never been the creator and the writer and the EP and the actor. So it's going to be this whole new ball game for me. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to go down the path. I'm terrified. But again, to circle back to the beginning, like I feel like I can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course you can. And congratulations.
Thank you.
I love that you shared that with us. And I love that because you're taking on just so much. I mean, to write, create, direct, and be in it. Which part of it do you enjoy the most? Or is that a bad question?
They stretch different muscles.
Tell me about what they stretch, because I get that. Like what does each part of it do for you personally?
Again, I'm a very type A, type B person, so I need the like rawness, and then the role in the show for myself is, she has this beautiful journey and this beautiful evolution of self and discovery, and so like to be able to be in her shoes, I'm so excited to do. But then also like from my producer side, like my type A side, like I can't wait to get everything in line and like get our cast set, and like I like checking boxes, and so like that's gonna give me that's gonna like feed that side of myself. So it's like this perfect balance of like my creativity's just being stretched in both ways. Life coach and therapist is really what it is.
There we go. I love it. What do you think is the most scariest thing you've ever taken on, or the most like challenging thing you've ever taken on? Is this going to be it, or what's up till now? What's been that thing, personal or professional?
Personal, there's been a few, but I would say professional. I did a live special on ABC of Good Times. It was a live performance. We were doing a one night only thing with Jimmy Kimmel was hosting it. Viola Davis was playing my mother. I was playing like an iconic character, Thelma Evans, and it was terrifying. Also, Tiffany Haddish was in the cast. I mean, it was an incredible cast. And then like imposter syndrome, me, and I'm like, what am I doing here? I've never done a play before, and essentially this is what this is, and it's live for millions of people. So it was absolutely terrifying, but the way I coped with that fear was to come in so prepared that nothing could shake me. I knew this performance frontwards, backwards. I did it every day, 10 times a day. My boyfriend was like gonna go crazy because I was just saying my lines, but it worked out because you get there and you're nervous and you're like, at least I know my lines.
Totally. I remember that. Except the funny thing for me is, and I'm sure you've experienced this, whenever you turn up with all that prep and knowing your lines, they always change your lines on the day.
Oh yeah, and you're like,
or they
wait.
give you a new script. You're like,
Luckily, we were going from original episode, so we weren't going to go from the script, but that does always happen.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, because I always get there, I'm like, but having said all of that, what you just said is spot on, that when you've done that prep, you actually feel like you can adapt to whatever's thrown at you.
Right. And that's what I've learned with being an actor. It's like when you really know your script, that's when you can play. But when you're sitting there remembering your lines, you're not present. You're not in the scene. And so like I applied that there, which was an acting thing. And I was just like, the more I know my lines, the more fun I'm going to have doing this, because this is the scariest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. I love that. All right. Corinne, I could carry on talking to you for fun for hours and hours and hours, but we end every episode of On Purpose with the final 5.
Okay.
So these are the fast 5. Questions have to be 1 word to 1 sentence maximum.
Okay.
So it can be whatever a sentence is, I don't know,
okay.
7 words, 9 words, I don't know, whatever it is. Okay, so the first question is, what is the best advice you've ever received?
Always save a little love for yourself.
Oh, I love that. That's I've never heard that before. That's beautiful. What's the worst advice you've ever received?
That wearing Uggs was a good idea.
Tell us why. I have to ask.
Because I have a lot of horrible red carpet moments from when I was 10 years old. And I look back and I'm like, why would I wear Uggs on a red carpet?
You were 10. You didn't choose those, did you? Or you did?
I probably did. I don't know.
I love that. All right. What gets you excited when you're waking up out of bed every morning?
My sisters.
Tell us more. I'm going to
Oh, okay. Oh, then I can explain.
Yeah. You don't have to. I'm intrigued. Hence.
Yeah. My sisters are 13 and 14, and I look forward to hearing about their days every day because they're at this pivotal age, really the age where I was diagnosed with anxiety, and to see them growing and changing every day, it makes me so excited. And also, I'm just so hopeful with all of Gen Z. They're incredible. And like, you guys have it way more put together than we do.
I love that. Question number 4. What is your current purpose? So how would you define your current purpose?
Being a voice for those that feel silenced.
I love that. 5th question. If you could, and this can be going longer, if you could meet your younger self again today, your 14-year-old self, what would you tell her?
It's funny because I answered this question today, but I would tell her it gets better. I was also bullied in high school, and there was a time in which you feel like it's the end of the world. And I wish I could go back to that girl and be like, it doesn't only get better, it gets spectacular, and it keeps going, and you're only going to go up from here. And I think when you're that age, everything feels like the end of the world, and it isn't. And yeah, it hasn't been.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Corinne, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you. This was so fun.
so vulnerable, so open, so generous with your time and also your energy. And just, I think everyone who's going to listen to this is going to have a great time. I think there's moments where we're laughing. There's moments where people are having really profound moments. And I love just what I really admire about you is just how focused you are on your well-being and yourself. And I find that that's such a brilliant foundation for all the success you're creating from it. Because often you find that people are doing a lot of successful things, they're making things happen, but their personal health and wellness is kind of all over the place. And so I really appreciate that. And I think you're setting a wonderful example of how that's the foundation of everything that's to come.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This was such an honor.
Yeah.
Seriously, I can't believe I was on your podcast. Again, Oprah was on your podcast. How am I on your podcast?
No, you were here because you are showing all generations to come, just how to figure out our life step by step, keep that love for ourselves, remove that self-judgment, beat that imposter syndrome. I mean, this is exactly what we all need to hear. If you've been listening or watching at home, I want to make sure that you tag me and Corinne on Instagram, on Twitter, on any platform you're listening on, and let us know what were the takeaways, what were the nuggets of wisdom that Corinne said that you're going to repeat. Maybe you're going to say it to yourself, maybe you're going to say it to your kids, maybe you're going to say it to your parents, whoever you're going to say it to. Please do tag both of us, because I love seeing what you're learning and what you're taking away. Corinne, any final words or anything you want to share?
Oh my God. Again, this has been such an honor. And I mean, I am such a huge fan of you and your wife. And I said that when I first walked in here. I was like, where's your wife? And so, no, it's been so great.